there's a tone and tenor and a standard that allows police misconduct. Impropriety is allowed. They feel very comfortable. It's an atmosphere that obviously has created ongoing impropriety within the department.
He says, you know, why? I'm gonna tell you why I believe that there's not been any strong call, because there's two standards. There's a black and brown standard, and there's a white standard.
What's happening is you have people who are holding this bill up, saying that they want to see a better bill. Let me tell you this: they want to see a better bill for the cops. They don't want to touch Leopold right now.
Yeah.
When you have a task force led by a cop, a former cop, who has a spine of a cookie, then you really can't get anything done.
Good evening, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
I'm Jay Street.
And welcome to The Source. Well, today we come to you with more local news than national news. So much is going on in and around our country, but we really need to get a handle on a lot of the stuff that's going on right here in our local municipality. First, I really, I don't know who to turn to, whether we go to J Street, whether we go to Kobe, but there is a whole lot of slip-ups, mess-ups, deficiencies within the Wilmington Police Department. I have on my docket 4 or 5 things that we could easily talk about. Why is it that when Mayor Williams was available, or our mayor, when we were labeled as Murder Town, there were so many calls even to want to take the charter? What's happening now?
Well, the fact of the matter is, obviously I wasn't a part of Mayor Williams' administration, but I worked closely with him. And to this day, it's just fundamentally unfair when the city became labeled by Newsweek magazine in 2014 as Murder Town USA. People from the state, people from the county, they literally bum rushed Dennis, demanded a change in leadership in the police department, and threatened to take the city charter if changes weren't made. And when you compare that to this administration, from the inception, broke the all-time record the first year in office, under acting and subsequently Chief Tracy, broke the record for the number of shootings. And last year continued that dismal record, and this year set on track here in August to break the record for the number of murders in the city and the number of shootings. It's just ridiculous. Separate and apart from that, you have all this bizarre behavior that's unprecedented, in my opinion, on the part of individual police officers in the city of Wilmington. We first had the situation where an officer forces a girl to have sex in the car, a black female, forces her to have sex in the police car while he's working. And the only thing that transpired with that, he was arrested, he was charged with rape, found not guilty of rape, but who's ever heard of anything like that? Then you turn around and you got a teenager.
Wait, before you go any further, let's start there. And I want you to continue to share your concerns, because let's stop there. You're telling me 11-year veterans. For those of you who are watching us, our research is done. We don't just sit around a table and talk. 11-year veteran of the Wilmington Police Department To my understanding, his name is Thomas Oliver Jr. He had a young lady walking up. She was walking up the street. He knew that she had some warrants on her or whatever, and basically put her in the car. This exposed himself, and then asked her to commit fellatio. And then all he got was a charge. I mean, got found guilty of.
He was fired.
Or he was fired.
And then he was charged.
Okay.
He was charged with some type of assault, and he was also charged with rape.
Okay.
Okay, and he was found. He had the best lawyer, one of the best lawyers in town, but obviously the case was poorly prosecuted, and he ended up walking away with the misdemeanor charge.
And one of the problems, I'm sorry, Corey, I don't act like you're not in the conversation.
No, go ahead.
But one of the problems that I'm experiencing, and even in my comments that I constantly make, is that only in underprivileged communities, only in communities of people of color, do you find such egregious, reputable behavior such as that. How do you be a person who wears the badge, do something, and believe you're going to get away with it?
Well, but we arrest people all the time for similar things. We arrest individuals, and they're held. Average citizens are held to a higher and different legal standard than what was imposed upon this person that was sworn to serve and protect.
Unbelievable.
And then you turn around, you have a stolen car, teenager gets out, runs, he's shot in the back. You had a police officer who's fired, and then subsequently changes the barrel on the weapon, and he's accused of tampering with evidence. He's found not guilty. He gets probation and walks away. Well, number one, tampering with evidence? You shot this kid in the back. Why wasn't it attempted murder? How do you get away with that? And so this is the second heinous thing. Now, in the instant matter.
Wait, I'm just taking you step by step because. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, that case. I wanted to talk a little bit about that case. So that's the case of Yaheem Harris.
Okay.
Young guy over North Side was shot in the back of Peace. Not only was he shot in the back, the officer lied and said he had a gun on him. Said he was halfway up the alleyway, and that he moved down. He removed the barrel of his gun. That's the tampering of evidence, right? He had a different barrel in his gun, and it had been reported when officers down at a training in Florida had said that this guy had a wrong gun. It had been reported to the Wilmington PD. He went into the back of his trunk. He switched out back to his standard issue barrel in his gun. That's an issue that we have to deal with here. The fact that this case, the other case with Oliver, this has all happened under this administration.
But let me just question you, because I want to be the person that's at the TV saying, but you're saying that it was reported that this kid was shot in the back. The police officer, they charged him with tampering with evidence, but this is beyond that. There's a willfulness that's going on here.
So not only that, Yaheem sat in jail for over a year. He missed his whole entire senior year of high school, and now he's behind. He's definitely traumatic. He was in jail for a year for something he didn't do, and because this officer was lying. Delaware is one of the few states that doesn't have a compensation package when wrongfully convicted of something. He sat in jail in pretrial. Luckily, the charges were dismissed, and now he's out and he's home with his family. But that's unacceptable.
What was his charges?
The fact they thought he was stealing cars, and that
They thought.
Yeah.
What evidence did they have?
Well, apparently there was cars being broken into in other locations that caused them to want to stop him.
And he runs from a stolen car. He runs and he's shot. And there's no attempted murder.
And the fact of the matter is, and I'll go back to my childhood, I snuck home from the University of Delaware, to deal with a traffic situation, didn't want my parents to know about it, and went to catch the bus, missed the bus. Me and my best friend are trying to now come back and catch my cousin to take me back down to the University of Delaware. And a cop steps out of the alley, stop by, blow your brains out. Well, I'm 17, and I could run. Time he said out, we knew we were out of pistol range and gone. Well, got caught, got in the alley, got beat up. Supposedly we had stolen $30,000 out of American Legion. Well, I ain't had nothing but bus fare on me. So that went away, but they charged us with running and disorderly conduct for running. So Judge Williams, God rest him, he could represent us in family court and was clear. Your Honor, running's not a crime according to city code numbers, And the judge says, but Judge Williams, the code also says, and Judge Williams said, lady, don't tell me what the code says. I wrote it when I was city solicitor. So the charge would be dismissed. That long story is, running is not a crime.
Absolutely not.
Okay, and Judge Williams made it clear back then that for years, children, young people, when they see the police, they flee the corner, they leave.
Right.
So running is not a crime, but he got shot in the back.
Wow.
And now we come to the instant matter, which has gone viral, and you've got the police officer on camera shoving this young man's head into a shelf or a window or whatever it is, and then slamming him, and it's crystal clear that the young man is not doing anything but
purchasing some
purchasing something. He's not resisting in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Second, in addition to that, and Kobe, you know, I watched you basically, and the young people that were with you, get the mayor and the governor to agree to body cameras regardless of whether or not you had the demonstration or not. The cameras came in, the mayor had a press conference, bragged about them. Where is the body camera footage from the police officer in this instant matter? And to the extent that it may not exist, then we've been hoodwinked.
So it's a few things. So I want to go back to the Oliver case real quick. And what I was looking up was how much time he got, because I know he got probation. That's all he got for everything he did. He got 1 year probation.
Who, Oliver?
Thomas Oliver Jr.
The cop who raped the young lady.
Got 1 year probation.
Unbelievable.
We're dealing with another case of police brutality. We're dealing with a case where you see the officer come into the store right away, doesn't answer any questions, starts grabbing. Right. Then he bangs his head on the bulletproof glass, and then throws him on the ground, and then it continues outside.
That's right.
Now, unfortunately, we don't have the video from outside, but what we can get is the body-worn camera. Now, the way the city has written its policy is that this chief of police is the only one, unless otherly designated, who can release that footage. So Chief Robert Tracy, you need to release the footage to the community, notify the officer, like it says in the rules, that the footage will be released to the media, and you need to do that immediately. It has been over 7 days at this fact. It's been over a week. And it wasn't until the video that went viral earlier this week got out and the community actually saw it, did the cops decide, oh, this is an issue, we should investigate it.
Now, you're asking for the chief to release body cameras, but the question I want to know first, is there footage of this from the body camera? Did the cop have the body camera on? Because he's used the word hoodwink, because if they're saying once you've asked that question, because she can't release what they don't have. Right. Either they're hoodwinking us or they have it. Right. Do you know if or not the camera was on?
We do not. So this is the thing, and this is whenever dealing with body cams. If the officer did not have it turned on right there, then the only footage and evidence they have is what's on that video within the store. That wasn't an independent, it wasn't someone just standing on the street, it was the store security right there.
But that's not what I thought the mayor and the governor agreed to.
Right.
What's the use of having the body cameras if you're not going to require that they be on at all times?
They are required whenever an interaction with the community. So as soon as they get out their cars, they're supposed to turn it on. Now, if he chose not to do that, that's other misconduct charges for him, but that's interdepartmental, since the public still cannot have any oversight over the police department. That's why we've been talking so much about the second part of that, is so that we have the footage, which is the evidence, and then we have the oversight and the investigatory power and subpoena power, so that we can get that footage, so that we have open FOIA laws, so that we can hold our officers accountable when they have actions like this.
Yeah, but I also want to add to that, if he chose not to turn on his body camera, that is a violation of the policy of the city.
Correct.
So he should not be sitting behind a desk on administrative leave.
Correct.
He should have been terminated for not even doing that. So we're going to assume that there is body footage, because if he does not, if they do not, and he did not turn it on, then he should have been fired from the door. With all the tension that's going on, especially in our community with the police, there is no room for this type of behavior. So I'm assuming, and I'm going to agree with you, it's time to release the body footage of that situation, because I'm told, I was not there, but I'm told that he got roughed up pretty bad.
Yeah.
What we saw was already, it insaned me. But what happened from throwing down the steps to getting him to the car and things of that nature was just totally brutal, and I think it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And as I said when I was interviewed by Channel 10, that at some point we got to recognize you can't treat people who are in lower economic status communities as if they're second-class people. That would have never happened in Greenville. That would have never happened in certain parts of the city, because they know people got lawyers, number one. They know we do not. So therefore, we can treat us as if we're nothing. And I think it has to stop, and we have to stop playing this game. I want to know also, I'm staying in trouble because I'm getting to a point where I don't even care. Where is City Council with all this?
It's Christmas. Okay, they're stuck on Silent Night. And obviously 7 of them are committed to the mayor and not the city of Wilmington and the problems that we're encountering. Now, separate and apart from all these heinous activities on the part of individual police officers, somebody's getting shot almost every day. Now, you turn around, and I screamed about it at county council meeting. Of course, they're not going to cover me. But the fact that you got a mass shooting over here at Winston Truett Park, right next to the fire station, 3 females shot. The following day, there are 3 cops out there. It's crystal clear. The next day, there was no police presence, and it was business as usual, and it's been business as usual ever since. They're gambling, they're drinking, some say they're selling drugs, and other illicit activity going on. You've got the fire station there, and the county uses that also as a paramedic station. You have camera footage there. Why hasn't anybody been arrested? How do you justify allowing that behavior to continue? And you've got a mass shooting, 3 females shot, and it's business as usual. And for all the reasons I've just talked about, I have to wonder out loud, why is Robert Tracy still the police chief? If when Wilmington was labeled Murder Town, USA, and it was demanded that there be a change in leadership, or we're going to take the city charter, that's what happened with fewer shootings and fewer murders. Why are we maintaining this leadership?
I'm going to answer before you.
And in my opinion, it's past time for a change in leadership. How is the highest paid city employee? Okay, obviously, there's a tone and tenor and a standard that allows police misconduct. Impropriety is allowed. They feel very comfortable. It's an atmosphere that obviously has created ongoing impropriety within the department. And I look at the shooting in the back, the sexual abuse in the car, the instant matter, and this level of shootings, this level of murders, and it cries out for new leadership. Police chief, in my opinion, should resign, or city council should demand that the mayor fire him. It wouldn't be allowed anywhere else. And when I compare that to, and I just left the walking out ceremony for Colonel Bond, the county police chief. Tom Gordon was there, and reflecting back with Tom, 8 years as police chief, 12 years as county executive, no shootings in those 20 years, because police officers knew he was not going to tolerate that foolishness. And to the extent that you have this level of impropriety within the Wilmington Police Department, it's just out of control. And if the locker room's out of control, coach, who gets fired?
The coach. Let me. I'm gonna come right to you because I want to answer Jay's question in my own opinion. For those of you who are watching me, he says, you know, why? I'm gonna tell you why I believe that there's not been any strong call, because there's two standards. There's a black and brown standard, and there's a white standard. If you're black and you mess up, if you're black and there's some crime, you got to go. If you're white and there's crime and there's incompetence, you stay around because we got to take care of the club. I said it. I'm here to represent it, and I ain't taking it back. Because that is what's happening. When I saw how they did Dennis Williams, friends of mine who I had to call and say, why are y'all treating him as if he's some kind of criminal? Because crime was not where it needed to be. We wanted it to be lower. Give the man an opportunity. No. He got labeled. People set him up. Now, all of a sudden, we're in the silent night moment. It's been 6 years almost. This is his first term or second term. He didn't named up. Yeah, and I'm saying at this point,
we're in his fifth year.
Fifth year. I'm sorry, but regardless, this is not stuff we're talking about today. Is not something that's happened in 1 month.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is, you know, they held Dennis accountable. When Jim Sills was the mayor, the FOP hung a sign across Pennsylvania Avenue saying, "Welcome to Jim Sills Shooting Gallery." They basically, because Jim Baker beat Jim Sills, they gave Jim Baker a 12-year pass, even though Harry Smith Jr. was executed by the Wilmington police over his mental health conditions. Father took him to the police station, and he ended up being shot 38 times for taking a police car. Well, you know, I still talk about that in 2003 because the officer jumped out of the car. Fundamental policing 101, you exit the vehicle, you secure the vehicle. He left it running. The boy jumped in it, and they shot him 38 times. Baker got away with that. NAACP challenged it. They sued, spent $1 million defending it, as opposed to taking care of the family. His mother died, his twin brother died, both of a broken heart, and they destroyed that family. And then you come to Dennis, and we just talked about what they did with him, but this mayor gets a pass, and he hired this person who's supposed to be the best there is. He's the highest paid police officer, highest paid police chief in the history of the city, highest paid city employee. They brought him in from Chicago. Chicago, where did they have more murders than anywhere else in the country? But Mayor Pazicki gets a pass. It's fundamentally unfair, it's wrong, and in my view, a change in leadership is warranted. And when you've got this kind of ongoing problem, and you've got a mass shooting, and it's business as usual, if you don't change leadership, you don't care.
Well, that's the answer. Go ahead, you can say.
Yeah, so going back to the FOP has a lot of racism within it. And, you know, we've seen that over the years. We've seen how they reacted to protesters and the statements they put out, that you say if you're on the street shouting, hands up, don't shoot, you are seen as aggressive to them, right? Just saying, don't kill me, is seen as aggressive to them. And that was said by the former FOP president, who is now no longer there, Fred Calhoun, who me and him have had words quite often. But here,
and the FOP endorsed Donald Trump.
yeah,
And out of all the things that have transpired, the FOP has never said that this is wrong, it shouldn't be tolerated, not even the George Floyd situation.
Unbelievable.
I know.
Good.
I know. But see, this is what we're talking about, right? When dealing with the FOP, when dealing with cases like this, is why we need reform. And that's what, SB 149 was so important. And we hope that they'll get it done. But what's happening is you have people who are holding this bill up, saying that they want to see a better bill. Let me tell you this. They want to see a better bill for the cops. They don't want to touch Leopold right now.
Yeah.
When you have a task force led by a cop, a former cop, who has a spine of a cookie, then you really can't get anything done.
I'm sorry.
But that's what has been the issue. And then you have this trust, right? Since this task force has been formed, it's been 487 days since they promised a community action during election time. But I guess it was just an election promise, which has now cost us Brother Lamont Moses. We've seen this incident over South Bridge. We saw the incident over East Side. We've seen it down in Georgetown. We saw it on UD's campus the other day as well, too. Police here have no oversight, and they're just again and again abusing this system. And that is what is wrong right now.
Okay, and you look at the article that came out about the Dewey Beach police officer.
Yes.
Okay? And I don't know if the victim was black, white, and I don't care.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, he handcuffs this individual to a stretcher, jumps on the stretcher, and beats the man, and he's found guilty of assault, and the Attorney General recommended and the judge accepted 1 year probation.
It's the
I mean, it's just outrageous what's going on across this state as it relates to police misconduct. And here we are. Mr. Moses was shot on January 13th. This is September 30th. Police officers have been on administrative leave, paid vacation since then, and we have no determination from the Attorney General's office. So, separate and apart from calling for the Wilmington Police Chief's resignation, I think that it's past time that we started being more assertive and aggressive in what we're asking for and demanding. There's a need for federal intervention, a federal investigation of policing in this state in its entirety. NAACP has made that request and has not been responded to, and it's past time that we scream foul about it. And, you know, Kobe, I sat there with you and the governor's office and watched you, and they didn't want you to demonstrate, but all these things collectively, if we don't talk about having press conferences and demonstrations about this, then I think we're derelict in doing our duty.
Yeah, and so there's a few points you said, and I know you go back and forth, but when it comes to policing, right, we are calling on Attorney General Merrick Garland to open up a civil investigation into policing, whether it's state, Newcastle County, or Wilmington Police, on the pattern and practice of unconstitutional policing laws and practices here in the first state. That is what is needed right now.
Yeah.
Leopold protects them on the state level. That's why we're asking the federal government to step in. Going all the way back to the Dennis point, listen, in 2015, that was a record year for gun violence. Don't get me wrong, it was horrible.
Right.
But since then, 2017, 19, 20, and 21 are all higher ratings than that year. All of them.
Wow.
2018, we saw a decrease. But since then, it's been skyrocketing.
So 4 out of the almost 5 years that this administration's been in office, they have exceeded the shootings and murder rates of the Williams administration,
Yes.
which state officials demanded changes in leadership about.
Yeah, can I just turn the corner for a second? I hear you talking, I hear both of you talking, but I want to say to those, and I hope people are watching because I'm going to be behind the scenes starting to have this dialogue with the black leadership, especially clergy, who tend to get involved when there's a crisis, very little pre-planning. But our black leadership, you know, whether you are chief of staffs, whether you are elected officials, you are put in a position not to fight us. We're not asking African Americans, Latinos, people of color, they're not asking for a favor. They're asking for justice. I was raised in the projects. When the Lord blessed me to go and become a college student, I went there, but they constantly reminded me at the Lincoln University that you have a responsibility to the people who are left behind. What we saw on those cameras was inhumane. You don't just come in, ask no questions, and just beat up a black man because you got a gun and a badge. It's a culture, an ethos, E-T-H-O-S. It's a culture of disrespect and lack of life. I don't think it is, you understand. I heard him talk about the cookie, don't even have a cookie for a back. You're not elected. You can get mad at me, you can talk about me, you can say Curry is this, Curry is that. I've never sold my people out. I remember when even the governor gave us money to do some stuff over here, and when it was time to deal with the racism in the state, I did not whisper, I was very loud. Because you cannot be bought if you're going to represent a people. And for all of you who watch and look for opportunities to come at, whether it be Jay, whether it be Kobe, whether it be me, instead of sitting back there being the house Negro, at some point, we're going to have to step up because it's us now who's fighting the battle, but it won't be long before your child or your grandchild or your relative or somebody you care about is a victim of this racism that we are expressing. The purpose why we even got this source show is because I wanted to get a voice started. Because all too often everything is controlled. We pay for this. Because when you're controlled, you can't say certain things. You can't call for people's resignations. You can't talk. You got to do what you're told. We're unbossed, unbought. At some point, we're begging you, those of you who are brown, black, and of our culture, we're asking you to please step up. You see what's happening, but you are sitting back and you are allowing it to happen. Unfair.
Are you scared?
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know if they are.
But the fact of the matter is, okay, it's just outrageous that just like with the McDowell shooting, I'm the only public official that put pen to paper and filed the complaint, okay? And folks playing hide and go seek and acting like supporting this and acting like supporting that. And you know, as I said before Kobe got involved, you know, it was to the point where if something happens with the police, if something outrageous goes on, it's only two people were calling. Mouse, Richard Smith, the NAACP, and me. How crazy is that when you look at all the elected officials sitting in office who have the same responsibility? If not a higher responsibility than the NAACP, because these people who are committing these this dastardly behavior work for you. I don't understand it.
Yeah, let me take a real quick break, and we're going to come back and continue because this, again, we're going to do more local than we're going to do national news today because it's sad. It's sad to see that we're in the state that we're in. We'll be right back. Well, you see, we have another face with us today. We decided to run out, get on the corner, find out where is Mouse. We found him. He's here with us right now, and I wanted to give him an opportunity because while we were talking about, especially this case in South Bridge, not only did this officer become very aggressive and disrespectful to the gentleman who he arrested. But we're told that even the attorney now is sharing that one of the verbal words that were shared was the N-word. You know, he was basically telling him, you know, behave. So, Mouse, if you can just share whatever you so desire in that area so that we can be clear on what what information you're getting on that.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Carey, and the rest of you guys. Last night I stood a long time listening to Martin Luther King, Malcolm X and stuff, going back 2 years and going back to Martin. The movement was always black folks getting killed by the police up to now. Okay. This case by Mr. Brown is basically a case that the police was out of control, this particular police. I hear from the people that's involved, it was never no warrants put on Mr. Brown or nothing. They used this thing called U-Bar for Newcastle Avenue because he had first down the Dugan liquor store, but U-Bar for Newcastle Avenue, from Newcastle Avenue up to Newcastle. You can't be on that block, period. I never heard nothing like that.
Is that a law?
It's a no contact order.
Okay.
For the whole, I mean from when Newcastle Avenue started up to Old Newcastle.
Okay.
I never heard of a contact order that deep. So as we was in the lawyer's office, Mr. Tom Newberger, Attorney Tom Newberger yesterday, and the young lady was interviewing Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown said, by the way, while he was beating my head next to the plexiglass, he say, straighten up there, straighten up. He said, I didn't say nothing, but he asked the lawyer, is that right? Can the person do that? Newberger, I hold the case. And what we don't do as black folks, investigate where did these cops come from.
Okay.
Now, I can tell you that Mac Myers, people came, chief of staff came from Philadelphia, went to Baltimore. She was pro-cop. She was this and that. I can tell you what Tanya Washington came from, everything. But where did these cops come from? Now, Newberger and SCP, or whatever his name is, the news reporter, found out this cop from Cecil County, Maryland. But Cecil County, Maryland is home to the Ku Klux Klan.
That's where it is, right?
And it's the most dangerous place in the world for black folks, okay? Now we are investigating because Attorney Newberger said the case changed. Why are the Wilmington police using the N-word when they deal with people? Not only that, we have another picture. I'm trying to pull this picture up. And we have a picture of a young lady. And if I can pull this picture up, and once you see that, you're going to, can you?
Yeah, I can speak to that
go
real
ahead.
quick. So there's another incident that happened where a young lady is pinned up against the police car already. Another officer is pulling her arm out, putting the cuffs on her. And this officer standing behind her has one hand twisted behind her back and pulling her hair. And this went on as they're trying to arrest her. She's 18 years old.
Where was this?
This was over East Side.
10th and Pine.
10th and Pine.
East side.
Yeah. So this is what we're dealing with when we're talking about the breach of trust between the police and the community. These incidents like this not only causes traumas for the ones directly involved, but for everyone surrounding that area. When they see officers interacting with their fellow neighbors and stuff like that, that causes a lot of issues. And what we're going to do, we can put that up on the screen.
Yeah, you're going to see the picture. I didn't mean to cut you off, but we're going to show you, and I know this police officer too. But
Same
I know, all right. We're going to put this up on the screen so that you'll be able to see this picture of this exact same police officer. See, I didn't know he was from Cecil County.
Yeah.
I didn't know, for those of you who don't know, I went to Lincoln University, and that's right down the street, right down the road from Rising Sun, and that's Cecil County, and that's where KKK is founded at. And you got this person, and you can see on your screen now, who is just, let me shut up.
Okay, but Who is responsible for vetting the police officers before they're allowed to enter the academy? Who's the ultimate? So, if you don't have a good vetting process,
Okay.
and if you have all these outrageous and heinous behaviors on the part of police officers, who is to be held accountable? Who's to be held responsible?
So Jay, I want to bring up, you were in that meeting with the governor back on June the 3rd, 2020. Mouse was there as well too, and one of the things we brought up was better and doing a deeper dive when it comes to background on hiring officers, addressing any explicit or implicit biases through that process, going back, interviewing whether it's college, high school, professors,
and
teachers,
mental stage.
and mental state, yes.
Of a cop being hard to the force. He may have been bipolar, he may have been this.
Go ahead.
Mental stage.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So that is what we're talking about. We laid out that day, we laid out 15 points. Some was policy, some was changing internal policy, some was changing the law, and some was just changing the culture overall of policing and their interactions with the community.
Now let's get back.
So that was June the 3rd
Yes.
of 2020.
Yes.
So we're a year and 3 months out, and we're running into these kind of problems. I'm going to reiterate. Well, y'all tell me, what's the justification for allowing this police officer to continue to allowing this police chief to continue to remain as chief?
But it's deeper than that. What's the justification that he become the main police officer in the troubled black communities between Pond Street and South Bridge?
I think y'all talking, he's talking about the police chief, you're talking about the officer,
Yeah.
which I think is two things we need to address. And just to go back real quick, I pulled up my document from that meeting, because I keep everything on my iPad.
So that's why I love young people and their technical skills. Go ahead with it.
The actual point which we read was require pre-employment screening to identify prejudice, ensure local departments are eliminating candidates who display bias, intolerance, or any other behavior or prejudice that may threaten the public safety. That was the point that we read that day. Now going back to your point of the police chief, yes, this needs to be addressed. While his tactics worked in some parts of Chicago, you also have to address the other issues that happened under his watch there. One of the things that happened there was a 17-year-old boy, Laquan McDonald, who was killed by a police officer there, and then it was covered up. That's why so many activists right now are upset with President Biden nominating the former mayor of Chicago, Rob Emanuel, because of how his role he played in this. The superintendent of police out there and Chief Tracy both stepped down and went to the private sector after this incident as well too. Now, Mouse, to your
Tracy
point,
went to New York.
huh?
Tracy went to New York.
No, he's from New York, went to Chicago, then private.
Okay.
So who vetted him?
Well, the mayor. Now, back to your point, Mouse, dealing with this officer, you're right. He is a center of controversy for the department, so they should want to get rid of him, point blank. They were willing, the FOP and all these other people were willing to put out statements against Councilwoman Darby for showing a graphic that said that policing had a history of racial profiling and going after and being slave catchers, but yet they're silent on this. They talk about, oh, this is just a one-off incident. This is just a bad apple. Well, you're letting that bad apple stay in a batch.
But how many bad apples and how many incidents do we have to tolerate under this administration before there's either a change in leadership in the police department or there's a change in leadership in the mayor's office?
But there's another problem with the black community that's in power. They are scared. They are scared white people. They've been trained to be scared white people. So they are not going to buck white people or the police department. When you're sitting up there with all the power you got and you can't call the police department wrong or you won't go against them. I got on a certain council person yesterday, but she took a stand for op in the paper about how good the police is. I say, what are you talking about? These cops are killing your people. She had told me, she said, won't you teach me about civil rights? And so I don't have to teach you about civil rights. Stop taking the side of wrongness and unjust.
Yeah.
So Jay is not scared of nothing, never been.
But
Oh, God.
okay, but let's go to Lyman Moses. Riverside is not in my councilmatic district. Okay? How many public officials have said anything about the county police going into Riverside and shooting that young man in the middle of the night in front of his mama's house?
None.
Okay? So why did y'all run for office? If you're scared, stay home and be
Where
scared.
is the council person over here?
Yeah. Well.
What did that council person tell me? I asked her about the school, the city controlling the makeup of Bancroft because it's in the city and stuff. She told me, I don't do that. That's a state problem. I stay out of that. I said, no, this school belongs to us. Why are we letting the state dictate to us when we used to dictate to them all the time? So when you got people that's in power that is scared and don't want to make a move because they don't want to be seen as the bad person, they walk the line and they don't get off the line.
Yeah.
But let's nutshell this. Rape, we've been raped, been shot, we've been beat, and all on the watch of this administration, this police chief. There's a systemic problem here, and the remedy is a change in leadership.
Oh, we've been something else too. The problem we had at the hospital, the police came, did they? They wouldn't touch the case. They talked to me, I know this guy, I've been dealing with him for 3, hey, you behave, see you later.
But you know, the hospital issue is a whole nother issue because that's the police department. Within the police department, now have a major problem with them having constables that are gunmen that have the same power and authority. And here again, when we addressed the problem with the hospital administration, we were promised these things were going to happen, these things were going to happen, and based on the incident that you reported, and we just met with them about, it's deja vu, business as usual, and I said that in the meeting, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and these things need to change. And you know, when you've got constables running around hospital grounds with police dogs,
Yeah.
I got a problem. What y'all need police dogs for? Why do you need those dogs, and you know the history and what they've been used for? Why do you need them at the hospital? What's the justification for
There's
that?
a whole lot of tension because, and for those of you who are watching us, this is not, we've never really tried to be controversial. We are trying to raise the conscience of what's happening. Right now, there's a stress level. I can feel it even here. And by nature, I'm high strung, but somebody has to stand up for the person who can't. And for all too long, persons like Jay and Mouse, who are now, they've been around, so they're getting tired. And Kobe has come on the scene, and we appreciate that. I saw how they did you. It was one of the reasons why I was attracted to getting you here. They labeled you quickly and poisoned the minds of our people.
That's what they did.
So that you could go no further. Because this, if you were sitting in city council today, this would not be, our attention would not be here because you were continuously, like they got rid of, what's his name? Remember this church, I can't think of his name. It just slipped out of my head. He used to be on the city council attorney. Sam Guy. I'm sorry, Sam, if you're watching. I haven't seen you in a while. But they get rid of people who will raise issue. And I have problems with that. I mean, even you speak of whether it be our city council person for this district, for all the districts, it's not fair. And I'm watching, even with projects that I have here, people think they're hurting me. They think they're hurting me because they hold stuff back and won't approve certain things. They're not hurting me. They're not hurting me because I'm doing well. I'm fine. They're hurting the people that we represent. And we promised God that we would always give back. Y'all promised God you would always give back. And it's just sad. And you got people who are black, who are Latino, but mainly I'm speaking of the black sisters and brothers who are in prominent positions, know what's going on, and permit it.
And I'm going to say that my elders and the people who mentored me, and I'm talking about Lou Redden, I'm talking about Lip Mitchell, I'm talking about Judge Williams, I'm talking about my mother, I'm talking about my uncle, who fought so hard for so long to see black people put into office. They're rolling in their graves to see a majority black council sit idly by and let any mayor, be he black, white, or whatever, just do what he or she wants to do. And to the extent that the mayor has control of 7 individuals,
It's crazy.
it's outrageous and it's just shameful.
Can I say just one thing, please? The trend is now to go get a black woman chief of staff, a black woman HR, because the leaders who fight for justice can't go in that room and talk to them any kind of way, because they can get sued. So what the white leadership doing, Mac Myers and the mayor and others, is putting black women up there to stop the black men who protested and stuff from making deeper moves. And when you approach them, what made me mad about the woman at the county council with Mac, she said, I gave you a black chief. I said, what that's supposed to be? They kill people too.
Well, let me respectfully disagree, because I think she's doing an outstanding job, knowing that, and the administration did put a black police chief in place, and look at what he was confronted with. Okay, they tried to hold him responsible for something that happened in 1996, and nobody had dealt with. And they stuck by him in spite of the attacks, and turned around and made him the director of public safety. So those things have not been, at least my experience in working, and you know I supported Gordon, my experience in working with him is I haven't been ignored.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Of course, because you ain't UJ Street.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just
I see
telling
what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
All of them say Mouse and J Street, listen to them, get them out of your face, because if you stay in front of them too long, they're gonna tear you down.
Right, but there is a balance. But again, I'm going to look into what you just shared, though. Is it true that they are putting people to safeguard racism?
Country.
And I'm gonna pay attention to that, and I'm a researcher, so it won't be long, and I'm gonna come back on to this point. You were going to say something, you was cut off, and then we're gonna go to a break.
Yeah, so, no, you're fine. So, two things. So, I just want to say, Council President Trippy Congo did put out a statement about the video, and that's how a lot of people have seen it as well too, is through his social media reports. Now, I will say this. Other council members have said, well, we have no power over the police department. That's not true.
Okay.
What the power is you make it what it is, right? So while you have power to pass the mayor's agenda, you hold his agenda up until he addresses your concerns about the police department. And it's not for the detriment of the city or anything. It's because you care about the public safety of everyone. It shouldn't matter what color, what race, what religion you practice. Here in the city of Wilmington, it should be a safe place for everyone. And that means the people who are hired to protect us should also be held accountable. Now, if they're unwilling to fire this guy, then council needs to join together, and I would hope that all 13...
The cop or the chief or both?
Both.
The cop.
But he's talking about the cop.
All 13, I know all 13 won't, but I would hope that all 13 would come together for the betterment of the city.
Leroy Washington stop him. She's going to stop him.
Who's gonna stop him?
Councilman Larrell Watts been the blocker for 30 years when it comes to police. She always had the public safety committee.
She's still on the
That's her-
council?
Yes, she is. And they all go to her for guidance.
Well, the truth of the matter is,
I
you know, my record's crystal clear, and I've been on record and I've been accused of being unfair to the police chief, who's getting ready to be the public safety director. But when things transpire that I don't agree with, I'll use every opportunity at a council meeting to raise my voice. Right. And for you to hold public office and to sit idly by and these things going on, in my opinion, you're being derelict in your duty.
Absolutely.
Now, when I ran for office in 2004 initially, and Mouse was standing there beside me, I said, if I don't do anything else, what I said was, if you want somebody who's going to maintain the status quo, you can pick either one of them. Yeah. If you want somebody who's going to speak up and speak out, I'm your man. If I haven't done anything else over the last 16 years, I've done that. Yeah. And if those who are in office refuse to do that, then y'all need to resign too.
Right. Let me real quickly take a break, and then we'll be right back. And we're back. Listen, it has been a very, very full show today, and we really, as I just shared with Jay, he has to come back more than just once a month because we get the opportunity to talk about the local stuff because I think that's what you're most interested in. So we're gonna pull his arm. We're gonna send the DART bus to get him and get him dressed up and get him so he can get here more. I'm not gonna say every week, but at least more. We got a couple things just want to touch real fast as we try to bring this show to an end. One, the Anthony Lyles situation over there across the street from Rosegate in the Mission Park. His sister happens to be a person who works here in this our center. That was deplorable what happened with him, and we're going to have more about that as the story unwinds. But he was killed after that. He was beat to death by allegedly a girlfriend's brother and other boyfriend. But everybody has certainly given him a high mark. He was a very genuine, strong brother, cared about everybody, would not hurt or flee. These are the comments we heard. And so to his family, the Lyles family, we want to extend our condolences to you, and anything we can do as a church and as a people to support you, please know that we are here for you. Corby, we're in the rush zone right now. What you want to talk about real quickly?
Yeah, so at the time of this filming right now, the infrastructure bill and spending bill is in the middle of a showdown right now. The deadline for the funding for the government is actually Thursday evening, which means if they don't pass a continuing resolution to continue it to December 22nd, we will go into another government shutdown. Right. SCOTUS is back. The Supreme Court of the United States of America is back for their fall term. They're going to be doing oral arguments in person. Some of the bigger cases that are going to be up have to deal with Roe versus Wade, gun laws, anti-discrimination laws, and partisan gerrymandering. That's going to be really important. It's a 6-3 split on the Supreme Court right now. Another big announcement was Congresswoman Karen Bass, who was leading the fight for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, has announced that she is retiring from Congress, and she is actually going to run for mayor of Los Angeles, the second largest city in the nation. She would be the second black mayor if elected and the first woman mayor elected. And then also on September 28th, the State General Assembly had their first hearing on Delaware's redistricting process. Wilmington, you're going to see our districts expand a little bit, and on the Sussex side, they're going to get smaller, and they're going to get new districts down there.
Okay. Well, real quickly, I want to also add to that is that for those of you who are following the COVID across the state, we are now getting reports and information in that children are now the leaders. There's the highest, their rate is the highest rate of people who have contracted COVID-19. And we know school is now open, and with the lack of vaccination of some parents as well as those who are children are around, they don't always wear their masks as they need to. I'm asking you, please safeguard your children because that's going to be very, very key and critical for the time that we're in. We're trying to move out of it. I know Dr. Fauci did share that there may be a great break between right after the Thanksgiving where we may start seeing a true decrease in us getting back to normal, but we can't depend on that if we don't start safeguarding ourselves by wearing our masks, washing our hands, and getting vaccinated. That's very, very much important. Well, Brother Jay, it was a joy having you with us today. You started up all this stuff. Now I ain't gonna get nothing to prove because the people are gonna hate me even more. But you know what? I really don't care, because at the end of the day, you have taught me. I was going to say this while you were talking, Brother Jay. You and I both belong to a fraternity. But what I love about our fraternity is that we hold each other accountable. I think what's happening with the fraternity of folks who allow white cops to do what they want to do and people who are of another color to do what they want to do is that they don't hold them accountable. I understand about what brotherhood and being a part of the group is, but I also understand there's an accountability that needs to happen. So I kind of like will give you another word if you want to go in any way you want to.
The way I want to go is, and this is no joke, this whole article on a port in turmoil. What's transpired is outrageous, and I quite frankly think that the state of Delaware, Diamond State Port Corporation, and the Secretary of State have been hoodwinked. Certainly the community's been hoodwinked. We were promised 5,000 jobs. We were promised a community benefit analysis. We were promised a training program over here at Palmer School, which is a continued mess. So the whole problem at the port is a problem by itself. And in my opinion right now, based on what's happened, the lease needs to be broken, and the port needs to be taken back from so-called Diamond State Port Corporation. Needs to come back to its rightful place in the city of Wilmington. There was no reason in the 90s to give that port up, and you know the state can spend ARP money and other money, all the things that Golf Taylor promised. The state has enough money to do it themselves now, and it needs to go back to its rightful place in the city of Wilmington, where those jobs were for our residents, and it was a primary resource of employment, and it should have never been taken away.
I agree with you 100%. Brother Kobe.
Yeah, again, you know, one thing I want to say is hopefully everyone had a happy HBCU week.
Yeah.
You know, there was a ton of activities. Also, continue to get vaccinated, continue to register to vote. On September 28th, we announced national voter registration drives throughout the state. So please make sure you're checking your voter registration. And if you have someone who's not registered, make sure you go to ivote.gov.
Thank you very much. And I want to say to all of you, thank you for continuously watching us. And I want to make sure you understand it is not that we're trying to attack anyone, but we are on a mission, and our mission is now starting to intensify. We have to support a community that does not have a voice. Even though they elect people, even though there are people who are supposed to be supporting them, giving them little drops of whatever they're giving them, at this point, we are really interested in making sure that this community is represented. So if I offended someone, if Jay offended someone, if Kobe offended someone, and you are really doing your job, we do extend apology to you. But for those who are just sitting back, sitting in the cushy and comfortable positions and allowing our people to go under the level of suffering that they're going under, seeing all the things that we're seeing, shame on you. And we will never be apologetic for that. But I do want to say to all of you, thank you again so much. We are enjoy having us. And next week, we're going to come back, and I'm going to pull Jay's arm because we got some more stuff we want to talk about and bring some of this same stuff back up, because we want to start following it so that we can give you up to date. So call someone, let them know that we come on every Sunday at 5 p.m. channel 28, and you can follow us on our YouTube at E. Zion Fair Baptist Church. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Jay Street.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.